Now we're going to move on and look at correcting color and lighting. Photoshop has a lot of different ways in which you can go in and do color correction or do lighting correction if your image is overexposed or if your image is underexposed, especially if you shoot in camera raw. But even if you don't shoot in camera raw, you can take a JPEG and you can open that in raw and edit it there. You just don't have all the functionality or quality that you would have had you shot your images in Adobe Camera Raw. Had you shot your images in RAW. Now, Photoshop does have some auto tools to help with things that don't work in Camera Raw. And so let's take a look at those. I'm going to open the Courthouse JPEG for demonstration purposes and show you the auto options. So I'm going to go to Image and I'm going to select Auto Color. And you can see how it automatically goes in and makes adjustments to the image and does a really decent job of it as well. And again, that was Auto Color under Image. I'm going to undo. And I'm going to now go to Image, Auto Tone. Again, very good job. Command or Control Z to undo. Image, Auto Contrast. Pretty good job as well. And then I can go in after contrast and select tone, and it continues to repair my image. Now, auto color is going to fix any color cast issues that happen in your image. Let's say your image looks a little yellow, and I do have one in Bridge here. We'll open the color.jpg for demonstration, and I'll do Image and I'll do Auto Color, and we'll see where it goes in and it modifies the image. Doesn't do an amazing job. There's still a little work to be done here on color, but it's a good starting point. To further fix this image, I would need to adjust my color balance. So I would go Image, Adjust, Color Balance, and then I have my sliders here. And I can adjust my shadows, midtones, or highlights, because color balance is working with the mixture of colors to make the corrections. Now, the main thing about using color balance is you have to know exactly what color it is that you are wanting to adjust. Now, I went Image, Color Balance. That is not where you would want to go if you were making an adjustment on this. Cancel out of that. Again, you would want to use non-destructive editing, so you would use an adjustment layer, and you would do the color balance adjustment layer. And so I would go and I would click on my color balance icon, and then I could go in and be careful. We can see what happens. It's very easy to go too far one way or another. We know we don't want any more yellow. So essentially I needed to add some blue, some cyan, and that's adjusting the midtones. Now if I go in and I adjust my shadows for the same, and then the highlights as well, we see a huge amount of difference. Now let's say I want to fix lighting on an image, which is what we were doing over here with our courthouse image. I'm going to go back to where we were when we opened it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate my background layer. And then I'll come in and I can do my auto tone and my auto contrast. Looks pretty good. But I still have some areas that need to be adjusted. And so that being the point, I can come over here and I can use my dodge and burn tools. This is the burn tool. with the hand closed. The dodge tool looks like a lollipop. O is the shortcut. So if I select my dodge tool and get a fairly large brush, exposure is set up here in the control bar at the top of the workspace. And so if I come down here and I start to paint in, you can see where some of the areas within these shadows are becoming lighter. And I've got the range set to midtones here. Let me change that to shadows, and again I'm using the dodge tool. And when I change it to shadows, you see very slight adjustment, okay? But let's say I increase my exposure from 1% to 25%. Well, then we start seeing a whole lot more difference happening. If I bump that up even more, let's say I go to 50%. Well, then we can see where I'm able to paint light into these shadowed areas. And again, I've got this set for shadows. I can go in and I can paint the light in my shadowed areas. I can switch that to midtones now and go in, and now I'm painting on the midtones. You can see the brighter green colors beginning to pop. And if I turn that layer on and off, you can see what a huge difference I've made in a short period of time without having to do a whole lot of work. Now if I wanted to darken an area, I would select my burn tool. And then I could adjust for my shadows, midtones, or highlights and go in and I can darken areas. Let's say I wanted to darken the tree instead of lighten it. Well, I would go with the burn tool. Be careful with both of these tools. They can leave a color cast behind, especially the burn tool sometimes leaves orangey red areas behind where you've used it, and it can be very obvious. Be sure to use nice soft edged brushes, and you don't want to do this at 100%. You want to do it at 10%, 20%, at the most maybe 50%, and go through and make multiple passes so it looks natural. Now the next tool I want to talk about is the shadow highlight tool. So I'm going to turn that off, go back to my background layer, duplicate it, going to run image auto contrast, and then I'm going to do auto tone. So next we're going to look at shadows and highlights, and to adjust these I'm going to go image, adjustments, and come down and select shadows and highlights. Move this over. You can see it did an amazing job of bringing out some of the detail. If I click show more options here, the panel gets expanded and I can go in and make adjustments individually to the shadows and highlights and midtones. So let's say I want to open up my shadows. If I need to adjust my tones, highlights, I can bring them down. See the huge difference in the sky there. You can go in and adjust the color if I wanted to. Color was fine where it was at, so it didn't really need to be adjusted. Set that back at 0, and I can click my preview to see my before and after. And let's say I feel like I need a little bit more of my shadows to be a little darker. And there we have it. And that was shadows and highlights under image and adjustments. Cancel out of that. Next, let's look at brightness and contrast adjustment layers. Alright, so for brightness and contrast, we're going to just turn off our previous copies, duplicate our background layer again, and then we're going to go and do a brightness contrast adjustment layer. Now, you can go in and you can do a brightness contrast adjustment by going image adjustments and select brightness contrast. However, that is a destructive form of editing, and we're working non-destructively, which means to use adjustment layers. So that's what you need to do at all times. The brightness contrast icon is the little sun with half white, half black. Select that. And you can see where you can go in and globally adjust the contrast and brightness on your image. And you can bring out a lot of detail this way. And it works really well for a JPEG. However, I'm going to show you in a moment how to do this in Camera Raw, and it is so much easier and retains so much more quality on your image that that's preferable. So I'm going to cancel out of all of my images because we're going to use them for something else. I want you to reopen the courthouse image, courthouse.jpg, and you're going to follow the steps on pages 381 through 383 for shadows and highlights adjustments. And this is going to be 9A. So you're going to use the courthouse JPEG for the shadow highlights adjustments, pages 381 through 383. And then you're going to save that as 9A, your last name, underscore courthouse.psd.